Welcome to another episode of the Waffle Shop podcast. Today, I'm joined by someone who I've wanted to waffle with for quite some time now. It's author, keynote speaker, ex-professional football player, and mental health advocate, Mark O'Brien.
How are you?
Welcome to the Waffle Shop.
Yeah, no, it's been a long time coming, but I'm glad to be here now. Like,
no, to be fair, I appreciate you. You've come quite a way. To be fair,
travel from Newport this morning, but as you say, it's only 2 hours 10.
Yeah,
and now that like the football season finished, it makes it a lot easier to travel about and stuff like that. So, as I said, I've been looking forward to this.
So I got really confused because obviously Newport is Wales, but obviously your accent isn't Welsh.
Yeah, I normally get that a lot. It's like, what's an Irishman doing living in Wales and stuff like that? But I've been living away from Ireland now about 16 years.
Yeah.
Like, I moved away when I was 15, so even though the accent has still stayed the same through all of these years, it's like people think I only moved away last week.
So, it's doing well.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who, to be fair, I start each one of my shows with something called the Weekly Waffle, which is something that's like pissed me off. That once I've spoken about it to my guest, it makes me feel that little bit better. And it's funny we're talking about accents because I have a friend who is from Coventry, moved to Australia, hasn't been there that long, came back recently, and it's like you've got a full-blown like Australian like / Birmingham accent.
Yeah, no, stuff like that. Like I've had friends that have moved away to England to play football also, and I can hear like a twang of English in their voice, and I'm just thinking, how have you managed to do that in such a short period? Especially for me, because people like obviously see my accent as still really, really strong.
Yeah.
So like I just never understand how it's capable. But again, I used to always think that people try and adjust their accent to then also fit in with where they are.
Yeah.
Whereas people have to adjust their hearing to sit next to me. So that's the way I deal with
it. Is there anything that gets on your nerves that you'd like to take the opportunity to get off your chest?
And do you know what? I think there used to be a lot of things that like used to wind me up. But I just think since everything that I've gone through and everything that has happened in the life that I've had, especially since I've lived away, I'm a lot more relaxed. And I'm at a point where, and I know it's easy to say when you're at the other end of it, but I'm at a genuine happiness that there's not a lot that stresses me. There's not a lot that gets to me. There's not a lot that what seemed relevant at the time. I just see majority of things as irrelevant because the bigger picture of everything that has happened to me is kind of like still happy to be here.
Yeah.
Still happy to do that. So I think, like you say, things from the past where it's an argument with a friend or it's a relationship that hasn't quite worked out and little nitty gritty things that would just stress you out and you're just thinking, well, what about next week and what about the week after? Like, I'm not about that anymore. I'm literally about, okay, like, look, things can happen, but there's no point in me looking a week in advance rather than just looking at the simple thing of just today and the fact that I woke up and things like that. To me, the more that I've thought about and the more that I kind of like live towards that, I'm just a lot more relaxed in myself.
Yeah. So 4 years I've been doing this show and you've just ruined the segment. You can just give me one thing that gets on your nerves. I'm actually really excited to dive into that journey because it has been here, there and everywhere. Like you said, like from moving countries to careers not quite turning out the way that you thought they were going to be to then being an author. Like this, I genuinely don't know where this conversation is going to go. But I'd quite like to go back to the beginning, if that's okay. We were catching up before we hit the record button and your heart.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know from like social media and from what I know already, like you've got quite a big heart, but that's also not the heart that you were born with.
Yeah.
So was that the start of the journey for you to get to this point?
Yeah, it would have been. I think moving away from Ireland and growing up, like I never knew there was any issues whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like it was one of them things that I played sport. I was outside kicking a ball off the wall, playing for my local team. And then I flew away to play for Derby County. And then in that time, played for a year there, had me debut by the end of that season. So then the world's at your feet, everything's going like brilliant. And then all of a sudden, I come back for the pre-season and then you get your routine medicals, you get your routine heart scans. And in that routine heart scan, they picked up that I had like a leak in aortic valve, which at the time they said to me, look, you won't need an operation for 50, 60 years, but this is something that people can live with on a daily basis. It might never affect you. And because you're not showing symptoms, it's at like an okay pace, let's say. And it's something that we just keep an eye on. So I carried on training because, again, I didn't get told any different. And then they started to pick up on wearing heart rate monitors that my heart rate was racing up around, I think the maximum I got to was 227 and the
Wow.
average was 203. So my heart and resting rate was never coming back down.
Yeah.
It was constantly staying at a high pace. So they kind of thought that maybe he's just working hard. But because I wasn't faltering in anything, I wasn't fatigued, I wasn't like
Yeah.
looking slower, I wasn't anything. They kind of put two and two together and put it towards a specialist and said we need to get this checked. So then the specialist looked at it and then brought me for an MRI because they wanted to see what how like it functioned like on a live kind of scan. After that scan, we sat down with the specialist and he basically said, look, on a scale of 1 to 10, the valve being 10 leaking and that's quite bad, or 1 being nothing, he said it's up around a 7 or an 8. And then it was at that time things started to like seem a bit serious. But again, he told me you won't need an operation for 30, 40
Yeah.
years. And then in that 30, 40 years, I thought, well, I'll be in my 40s. Football will be finished.
Yeah.
I'm fine. So then they carried it on, brought it on to another specialist. And then the next specialist looked at all the information, said, look, I'm going to have to put this towards a surgeon just to see what their professional opinion would be on it. So they put it towards a surgeon. And in this time, I wasn't really training as much. You're trying to phone your family, and I was telling me dad everything, but I wouldn't tell me mum things because I never liked her worry about me.
Yeah.
I never liked her worrying about me. So in that time,
What was going through your head in that time? Because obviously I know you don't want to like worry your mom when you're speaking to your dad. What was going through your head when, because obviously it's the most vital organ that we need, obviously, to
Yeah.
live. What was that looking like and how did you navigate that?
do you know what? Going through my head, there wasn't much. I was 16. I was getting told, and I had to follow off everybody else. So
Yeah.
what a physio would tell me, you can keep on. A doctor would tell me you can keep on. I was playing football. I didn't care. And I know it sounds strange to say you didn't care about your heart, but I didn't understand.
Yeah.
I didn't have a clue what was going on. I didn't know what the actual issue is. I was just following where they say, but my question was always, can I still play?
Yeah.
And because I was getting told yes, I didn't care. Like I was just like, yeah, get on with it. Mark will be fine and I'll be fine. So like I never really like kind of paid attention to it. And it was when we went to see the surgeon, my mum and dad had to fly over, and the physio, we were all sitting in a room similar to this. The surgeon walked in, and it's something that I can always remember, like word for word. He put his diary on the desk. He sat down and he took a model heart out and he had it in his hand and he said, look, Mark, this is what your issue is. Your heart is 3 times the size of what it should be for a 16-year-old. And if you don't get this operation done this year, you're going to die. And it was like that moment that I kind of felt like the outer body, if you want to call it, going, you can't be
Yeah.
talking to me.
Yeah.
Like I've literally made my debut last year. Like you can't be telling me now all of a sudden I'm close to dying.
Yeah.
So it was in that time he sat there and he explained what was going on, and he said it's like getting a fresh balloon out of a packet. He said if you blow it up to its fullest, he said it will never go back down to normal shape. He said it will always stay and enlarged, and it'll
Yeah.
get bigger and bigger. And he said your heart, he says, is expanding the more harder it has to work with the leak of the valve. And he said it will get to a time where he said you'll wake up one morning, he said whether it's walking up a flight of stairs or whether it's brushing your teeth, and he said you'll collapse. And he said you'll be, and that's you gone. And he said because you're fit, because of football, your heart is dealing with the stress of it all right now. But he said it will get to that point that if you don't get something done, he said you will die. So then he went through the procedures, and I always look back and kind of laugh a little bit because, funnily enough, because I was 16, I only asked him, can I still play football?
Yeah.
Like I didn't care what he was saying, and like because it just didn't seem real, I didn't understand. Like there was probably more worry and shock from my man than the physio, but for me it was like, can I still play? And the one thing he said to me was, he said, Mark, look at, he said, after this operation you'd be lucky to play down the park with your friends. He said professional football will probably be a no-go for you. You probably won't get to play again.
Wow.
And then that's when that hit me.
It hit.
That hit me more because I thought I won't get to play football anymore. I've already like seen what it was like to play in front of a big stadium. Like this is all I want, and now you're telling me I can't do it.
How did you feel with that? Because obviously you're still very young at that age, and you're almost living this dream scenario of like playing in front of thousands of people at something that you've loved, you've grown up doing, to then have someone that essentially that you have to trust, like tell you that you can't do that. I find it really fascinating because one of the biggest emotions that I struggle with is anger. And even you telling me that story, there's an element of like, I hate hearing stuff like this. So I'm
Yeah.
just like, it's not fair. How were you feeling in that time?
I was actually just feeling upset. I was just feeling like I felt hurt. Like I literally felt as though I didn't care about my heart. Like, why did this have to happen to me? Why did this have to be me? Like, that was the whole feeling through everything. Like, why is this me? Like, I just want to go play football. Why is this happening to me? So, like, in all them times, I remember he went through the procedures. He said, like, you can have a metallic valve, which means I'll be on blood thinners for the rest of my life, which means I can't play anymore. So then all of a sudden, I said no. So then he went through another one saying like it's called a Ross operation where your aortic valve and your lung valve swap them about. So then the lung valve is now your aortic valve, but because it's all your own tissues, it's like a high success rate that it will be okay. But then later in life, the lung valve would need replacing and vice versa. So that was one. And then the next one was a pigskin valve. And he said, well, a pigskin valve means you'd be on medication for a period of time. And then if it takes to your body, well, then you can potentially get back to a level of fitness, but maybe never professional because that's a higher strain. And I said, but could I try and get back playing? And he said, there's a potential of you, but he said, I'm not going to tell you yes, because he said, we had a gymnast in 18 months ago. She had the same operation, went back into gymnastics, and within 8 months, her valve failed and she had to go back in again. So that in my mind was like the biggest risk. It was kind of like, but the fact I heard that there's a chance I'll get back training,
Yeah.
I just said yeah. And never really spoke to my mum or dad about it. Never spoke to the physio. Like I just knew I was nailed on, like certain of saying that's exactly what I want. Because if he gave me that small little bit of a chance, well then I was going to
Of
take it
course you
because I knew
were.
this was all that I
Yeah.
wanted. And the fact of we went in for the operation. So what happened through the whole time of saying 60 years, 40 years, he went to his diary and said, okay, I can do it in the next 2 weeks. So there was no time to think of it. There was no time of going over it.
Bam,
It was
this is
literally,
what's
this
happening.
is going in. So I flew home to Dublin for 2 weeks, family around me telling me I'm going to be okay. Mark, look, you're young, fit, well, healthy, everything's going to be fine. And it was only until the night before the operation. I remember I had the operation on a Sunday and I was sitting in the hospital bed. Like my mom came in and then like she left and stayed nearby. And I was watching Match of the Day on the telly and I didn't really understand, but it's like I think as a 16-year-old, as well as my family having to sign it, I had to sign a consent form that there's potential death going to happen to me. It's stuff I remember, but I shouldn't be remembering that at
Yeah.
16. So, like, that in itself was quite hard, but to an extent, like, I knew that this is the only thing that has to happen for me to get back playing.
Yeah.
Like, I need this to get me back playing football. And went in for the operation. It was 6 hours long. Came back out of it. And I remember there was a couple of times, like, when my family were coming to the hospital and stuff like that, and everybody like were there saying, "Oh, you're doing so well," and again going out for little walks, like from here to a door, would like I'd have to sit down after it.
Yeah.
Then you'd go to a bit further than the door the next day, and it's literally like a slowest of slowest processes. It's like literally like a child again starting to walk. And in that time, I remember I got really frustrated in the hospital one evening because lads from the football team came up to visit me. And when they came up to visit, I can see them standing there talking to me. They leave and I'm still in the hospital bed.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting with my mum and I just burst into tears, like saying, why did this have to happen to be me? Like, why can't I be going home now? Why can't I be going out to train? And I'll always remember, like, my mum sat and she did cry with me, saying everything's going to be okay. Like, you will get back to there. You will do that.
Yeah.
And I think that was the turning point on a lot of things because I look back at it now and the people that I had around me never once doubted that I wouldn't get back. And I think at 16, with little doubts that I had along the way, but at 16, I had everybody being so positive around me saying, Mark, you will get back. Mark, you're going to do it. And there was at times, don't get me wrong, I felt as though I wasn't going to. But the little things that made a difference to me was the fitness I was doing with football. Because again, they know how to rehab a heart. They know how to rehab a hamstring, a groin. But how do you rehab a heart? Like,
Yeah.
they were just as cautious as what I was. I didn't know. So then they just took it as, well, we're going to have to do, how do you get somebody fit? This is how we have to treat it. And slowly but surely, I would do fitness with them. And even though I felt a million miles away from football level, when I'd go back to the hospital to do what their testing would be, walking on a treadmill, I'd be streets ahead of that. So I was like, right, this is working and
Yeah.
everything's getting that bit better. And then I think it was, I had the operation in the October, and then by March, April time, I was back playing football. And I was back
Wow.
playing. No, it was, I think, a
Yeah.
6, 7 month turnaround playing. And I remember me first get Manchester United on MUTV in the under 18s. And obviously, you can get that in Ireland. So my dad bought it in on his Sky and stuff like that. And my dad was sitting there, and my ma was telling me afterwards that he was like really nervous to watch, because I think they were more worried at the fact of going, is he going to be nervous? Is he going to be the same
Yeah.
Mark that? Is he going to like be a different player? Like, or is this going to frustrate him? And I remember, like, I played the game. I didn't have a single, like, kind of worry about it. And it was more to the fact of, I remember my mum told me that my dad watched it. And it was like the first couple of minutes of the game, a ball came in. I threw myself in front of it, hit me in the chest. I just jumped back up and jogged on. And I was at that
Do you
point,
know what, even when you said that, then I felt awkward as if you were going to tell me something.
yeah.
And you just, that
And
shows a lot of like
it was
determination
literally
there.
it was like football was the distraction. So like, it was like my mum told me, my dad like almost took a sigh of relief to kind of go, right, he's back to himself,
back.
because he's watched me my whole life, so he knows exactly what I'm like as a person or a player. That once he's seen that, he goes, yeah, I'm fine now. I can just sit and watch the game. So I got back, and then I made the first team bench by the end of that season, like kind of as a, I'm back. And that in itself was, I missed out a year of football, but it was like the maddest year of my life.
Yeah.
It kind of, it put things into perspective, even at the age of 16, that football, I knew how much it meant to me, but also it became a massive part of my life.
Who made the decision for you
To retire,
to retire?
it was me.
Okay.
I made the decision for me to retire because, like I say, through the whole career, having the highs and lows, and I've had cruciate ligament injuries, I've had all of that, but the open heart surgery really set me up for a lot of things that I faced. So I used that in like the best way possible to say, well, now that I've got a cruciate ligament injury, which can also be a career-ending injury, well, if I can get back from my heart, I can get back from this. And then if I get back from that, I can go, well, if I can get back from then too, this won't bother me. And it really molded my career into going, no matter what I'm facing, look, if I can get back
You're
from a heart
unstoppable.
operation, like, it's not going to stop me. Now, don't get me wrong. The only time I probably ever faltered was when an opinion of a manager didn't like me, because that's out of my control.
Yeah.
I can control an injury and go, I can get back fit. I can control certain things. But when the manager didn't like me, I was kind of struggled, because I didn't know, I can't train harder. I can't do things better. If he doesn't like me, he doesn't like me. And I didn't know how to like deal with that, which again, it allowed me to understand a lot more different things, where I just thought, well, now all of a sudden I understand football is about opinions. I can't make everybody happy, but I can still go out and work hard for myself. I can still go out and train hard for myself, and it shouldn't stop me, because again, there's going to be more opportunity down the road. But again, when I got to 27, the valve started leaking again, and this was during COVID. And when the valve started leaking again, I remember I went out for a walk one evening, got home, I'm sitting on the sofa, and out of nowhere I just got a like thump in my chest, and I could feel like my neck pulsing, I could feel my heart palpitating, and I felt as though I was getting like really clammy, and I was heating up, and I just thought, something's not right. So I found the doctor, and he told me, look, it's probably nothing to worry about, don't panic yourself, but he said, if it happens again, let me know. So I remember trying to sleep at night, couldn't lay on my left hand side. I didn't know why. I just keep getting a really big jump in my chest every time I'd lay on my left hand side. Again, didn't know why. So I carried on, still going out cycling each day during COVID, still doing what I needed to do, because I didn't know any information.
Yeah.
And I was trying to stay fit for when football hopefully kick-started back, because nobody knew what COVID was at the time.
Yeah.
We were all keeping fit. So I'm going out cycling, and I'm doing 20k cycles, 30k cycles, just because. But even in all those times, my heart is palpitating, and I could feel, then all of a sudden I could feel like pain in my left like forearm. And I found the doctor. I said, look, I can't sleep at night. So my chest keeps jumping. I don't know what it is. He goes, look, because it's COVID, it's hard to get in on hospitals. He said, I'll get you a scan. He said, it's probably going to be nothing but better being safe. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, no problem. So I went into Cardiff and I ended up getting a scan. And then in that time of getting the scan, I remember I sat in his office. And again, no one's allowed in the hospitals. A girl I used to go out with, she was obviously there outside waiting. And the doctor came in and he sat in front of me, said, Mark, look, your valve is leaking. And he said, it's leaking quite badly. And in that moment, when I got told that, I just dropped my head to the floor and I burst into tears. And he tried to console me and he was saying, look, Mark, there's procedures you can do and there's ways we can go about and you can carry on playing. There's people who have done it before. And I told him out straight. I said, no, I said, my career's done. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, it's done because I said at 16, I said, I made the pact with myself and my family. And I said, look, whenever this valve goes, whether it was a year, 5 years, or lucky enough with the 10, 11 years that I got, whenever that happens, I'm stopping. I said I was having one for my career and one for my life. I said, and that was all that I was doing. And in that time, I always was prepared and thought I was prepared because I knew it was inevitable. It was going to happen. But just because I was getting the good news every single season of everything's okay, I kind of fell into that false sense of everything's
Reality
all good
as
here.
well, though, isn't it? That
Yeah.
was it was like, oh well, this isn't a thing to worry about anymore.
Exactly. And it almost felt as though like it was something that never happened. And then when when that happened, I literally just I had to make that decision. And that decision was always going to be that. So I was never going to break that promise of this is what I'm wanting. Nobody's going to talk me out of it. I don't care where I'm at in my career. I don't care what's gone really well. I'm done.
There's a few things I just want to jump in there, and I need to kind of like throw some praise towards you because one, the kind of previous start to that story, you almost took every lesson that you kind of learn in those kind of scenarios and you used it as fire. But then what I really, really commend you for is that promise that you kept. Like that is, I think in this day and age, it's quite rare for someone to really prioritize their own needs. And that's kind of hit home today. So I massively respect you for that.
I sat down with my dad for years and he used to always say to me, but Mark, let's say you're doing so well, you're playing for Manchester United and your valve goes. He said, do you have the operation again to then continue your career and then later in the life? I said, no. I said, I don't care when it is or what it is. I said, literally me right now is I'm giving myself a chance for football so I don't look back with a regret and say, do you know what? If I only had gave myself a chance, maybe I would have done something well. I said, I've done the best I can do. I said, these are the cards I've been dealt. And then all of a sudden, making that decision, don't get me wrong, was probably one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. But the minute I got told my valve was leaking, it was the first thing that came to my mind. I didn't hesitate. I didn't say, well, leave it with me and I'll think about it. It was, no, I'm retiring. And I remember I came out of the office straight away, got on the phone to my mum. She flew over the next day. I sat and cried with my ex-partner, and I just couldn't stop myself from crying. And it wasn't due to the fact that my heart is leaking. It was due to the fact that I couldn't play football anymore.
But that's also, and there's an element of grief there. You're almost grieving for a career. You're grieving for a life that you could have had. And you're kind of speaking to someone who gets it. Like my mom's in like when you were talking about like rehabilitation and stuff like that, like I hold my head up very proudly to say I taught my mom to speak again. She had a slip disc. It went horribly wrong. And she's now in a neurological care home going through like rehab. And that's her life now. She was an incredibly fit woman. And it's literally the driving force behind everything that I do now, because it's, again, what you've just said, it's the regret of like not giving yourself a chance. Like if I don't do this, I don't know. I don't want to get to that age and think, I wish I did. I'd rather give it a go and be, that'll be my story. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. But like, at least I tried.
Yeah, exactly.
Where does that mindset, because it was literally one of the biggest things that I love about like your social media, and even more so now, like having this conversation with you, Where does that drive and that mindset and that fire come from? Has it always been there from a younger age? And is it just kind of like burnt brighter with the cards that you've been dealt?
Do you know what? I've always had a mindset that like I'll do anything, I can achieve anything
Yeah.
kind of person. But I was always kept 2 feet firmly on the ground. I never was able, or not that I wasn't able to, but I never felt myself getting carried away with the praise of football, with the praise of all these different things that were going on. And I don't know, it was mainly, I think, just how I was brought up. I think like my dad was the disciplinarian one, and like I wait until dad comes home, and you never really wanted to step out of line. But I was brought up like just with respect, with morals and different things that, do you know what? All of that coming together, that whatever came my way, yeah, I'd have worry, but I always had the right people around me that at a young age, I never felt as though I was ever in trouble. I never had the most lavish young lifestyle, but I never went without anything. I was always just, like you say, if I wanted a football, I could have it. If I went out and played football or we were going on a footballing trip, we all went. But it was something, like you say, I never went without. But at the same time, it was always the more stuff I faced and the more stuff I overcame, it was like always in me. I always say that football was like an alter ego for me. Like when I was away from football, I was this person that you don't speak unless spoken to. You kind of sit there in the corner, and if people speak to you, I'll have the best of conversations. But I always felt that I was like awkward where I didn't know how to like engage in conversation straight away. Whereas as football, I'd go out onto a football pitch, and I was 16 and I'm playing with a group of men. I'd literally be telling anybody what to do, how to do it, screaming at people, talking, cursing, swearing. Like my mum said when she watched that game on MUTV, she said, I never thought you swore that much. Because like again,
Sorry,
even
Mum.
even still to this day, like I find it like difficult to swear in
Yeah.
front of my mum. But I was just like, yeah, because that's the passion coming out, and
Respect as well.
that's the
Yeah.
everything that's coming out of me, and that's where my whole release was of this is my job, but this is what I love, and I want to do the best at it. And with everything that I did overcome, like you say, I think the mindset was always there because I always had people saying to me, "You're a strong person," and you don't believe it when people say it to you, but then you start believing it for yourself when you just chip away at little things and you keep chipping away. And as I said, there's been a lot of times that I felt like, do you know what, I'm gonna throw the towel in here because there was times where with an injury, or especially at the time when a manager didn't like me, they were the times I struggled. Anything that I could control, I was
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, I've got this. Yeah, I'll be able to get back. Like I'll come in and do the rehab. I'll come in and do the training I need to do. But when it was stuff that was out of my control, that's where I think I underestimated that. Am I really this strong? And then I always thought, well, look, I'm going to throw them all into the same bracket. Whether it's someone's opinion that doesn't like me or whether it's something like that, they're all going in the same bracket of I'll make it my control and I'm going to still focus on myself and do what I need to do. Regardless of what you think, I'm going to carry on doing it. And I'm not going to change my person or my personality to suit what your narrative is of me. I'm just going to keep going and keep going.
We were saying it before, like we hit the record button about, this is mad. Like I've been podcasting for 4 years, but it was that almost the rock bottom. It was that defining moment of me questioning whether I wanted to be here at all was the turning point. And like I always go back to that point. I was like, well, if I can get through that and almost create something quite beautiful and have conversations like this and make these kind of connections, like it's almost worth it. Like I
Yeah.
don't want to live through it again. Like it ripped me to shreds, and there's days that it really still rears its ugly head. But it's those kind of moments that you realize just how much strength is inside of you. And yeah, it's you've. I nearly went then. I nearly went. I was not expecting that. I don't know. You've hit a nerve. You've retired from football. Now, what did that look like? That transitional piece. Like, was there like a huge question mark in terms of, well, this has almost gone away now. What do I do?
Yeah.
Like, how did, because even like getting to a certain age of like career in a normal situation, it's like, okay, well, what do I do? But that, I imagine, like, it's almost like a dream that has been kind of taken away. I don't want to put words into your mouth, but like, was that the feeling?
It literally was that. It was a dream taken away. Like you hit the nail on the head with it. But when I had to retire at 27, my life has ended. And that's where major struggle started. Like that was where, like you say, if I had a low at 16, getting told you're almost gonna die, like this one at 27 was 100 times worse, and it was like something where I wasn't able to revert back to that 16-year-old anymore. I wasn't able to go back and go, well, if I overcame this, I can do this. It was, this is me struggle now. This is my, what am I gonna do? So put it like this: it was during COVID. I retired from football, and I need open heart surgery all at the once, and I didn't know how to go around it. I didn't know how to break it apart. And again, there was a time, it was when panic attacks started. It was where like I knew I needed this operation, and I had to wait for it and wait for it because COVID happened and hospitals were busy and they didn't know when they were going to get me in, and I didn't know what was 100% really wrong with me. I knew the valve was leaking, but how bad is it? Like, and all of these things were just leading to like a stress inside me that I never ever thought I'd have. Like, and don't get me wrong, I was always a worrier, but this brought out like a different side of worrying me that I never thought I'd ever have. And
But a panic attack as well, and anxiety. Like when I experience anxiety, my hand goes immediately to my chest. I can feel that there is something there. My chest is tighter, and it's like I've got a shortness of breath. With you experiencing what you're experiencing with your heart, did that, I'm assuming, is adding an extreme amount of additional pressure, stress, and worry
yeah,
to the situation?
yeah, and that's exactly what it was. I remember there was one evening, and I remember I said it to you that I was sitting with my mum, and I'm sitting on the sofa, and like sitting like where yourself is, and it would be my mum. And I remember I just opened up like me double doors, and I needed to let air in. And my mum was like, "What's wrong?" I said, "I don't feel right." And I had a CT scan that day, so I just thought it might have been the after effect of having that. And I sat there with my mum, and I told her I can't. Like, I was starting to like go blurry visioned, and I thought, "Oh my god!" And I started to get that clammy feeling. I started to get really like choked up. I started to just feel as though I can't breathe, and I really thought I was having a heart attack. And I remember I had to phone an ambulance. So as we were waiting on the ambulance, I was just holding my mum's hand, and like I'll never forget it. I was like holding her hands, and my head was down, just trying to catch my breath, and I could feel that my heart was thumping, and I could feel myself getting hotter and hotter and more dizzy. I'll never forget it. That it was the one time I actually thought, "Am I about to die?" And I'm sitting with my ma, and her head is down, and she's holding my hand, saying, "Everything's gonna be okay. Just keep breathing." And like I've looked back on it before, and like it upsets me because it's like I'm sitting with my mom. She's praying for our son, where I'm sitting there thinking I'm trying to be strong, say to my mom, "I'll be okay." But this time I actually felt I actually don't know what's happening to me right now. I've never had anything like this. And then the ambulance pulled up. They walked in, they assessed me, and then as easy as that, everything relaxed. And I was thinking, like, this isn't right. Like, what's at that happening? And they were saying to me, "No, look, it was a panic attack." So then that's when I started to well, not understand them, but that's when I started to realize, like, this is like these things are real. So then I went to the Glenfield Hospital at Leicester, and
That's where my mum went.
yeah, and that's where I had the first one at 16. So when I went,
Respiratory.
yeah, so when I went back, and I'm sitting there in the hospital, I go back to the doctors who know all me notes from 16, and they look at me and just say, "He doesn't look well, we're taking him in." So I went in, and again, the hospital being busy, I'm in there on my own. So I was in there for like 3-4 weeks, and waiting on the operation, waiting on a date. And in all that time, no one can visit you. No one's allowed in. I'm in there by myself. You're a FaceTime away from everybody. And I was meant to have my operation. I'd say like this could be a Sunday or a Monday. I was having it on the Thursday. So we got to the Wednesday, and I remember I was getting like pains in my chest. I was sweating. I was vomiting. They thought I had an infection in my valve. So with that, they had to do all blood tests and stuff like that. And I got wheeled onto the main ward. And when I got wheeled onto that main ward, I was wondering, because when you get onto the main ward, it's normally people who are recovering. Whereas I was wheeled on there and I haven't even had the operation. So they hooked me up to all the machines, and the surgeon came around that evening and said to me, Mark, look, he said, your heart rate is really high. He said, you've got potentially an infection. And he said, your valve is said is hanging on by a thread. And he said, if your valve at any point is to break off and circulate your body, he said, you're dead. He said, because it could get lodged in your brain, and he said, you're dead. He said, so we have to keep a close eye on you for the next 24 hours, especially if you don't have an infection, we can do the operation. But if you do, we have to wait until the infection's gone, because he said it's not safe.
Which could take weeks.
Yeah. So I was sitting there, and to be honest, to tell you, I couldn't sleep that night is an understatement. Like, I was on FaceTime to my mum. So I know this information, and again, it's the, how are you feeling? Look, I'm all right. Everything's all right. Like, it is what it is. But on the receiving end, I didn't know my mum was informed of all of this as well. So both of us are sitting there. Like, the elephant in the room is, she knows what's going on, I know what's going on, but we never spoke about it. And my mum is telling me, like, look, I love you and everything's going to be okay. And I'm sitting there saying the same thing back, saying, look, everything's going to be fine. I'll have the operation tomorrow. Clearly not knowing if it's going to happen. But I'll have it tomorrow. Everything will be fine. I'll be in recovery. And then the next day came, and the doctor came in. He said, Mark, look, got some good news. You don't have an infection. You can get the operation. And when I tell you what you don't realise about a stress or an anxious feeling, just all released.
Yeah.
And if I, like, honestly, if I could have kissed him, I would have. I just shook his hand and just burst into tears.
Yeah.
Because that's where, again, my perspective change came. And that is literally the moment to where my perspective changed, of going from what I was afraid of with open heart surgery, with being in hospital, with being away from family. I was actually looking forward to open heart surgery. And it sounds crazy to say, I couldn't wait to have it, because I knew if a doctor's told you you have potentially 24 hours of living, you are that close that if this breaks off and we have no control over it, you're dead. My perspective changed straight away to say, I need this to save me. And once I knew I had it, I was actually relieved that I was having it. And I never thought I'd ever have that feeling. And I always say it's strange to say, and it does make me laugh to go, do you know what? I was actually looking forward to open heart surgery. It's crazy to say. I think the operation this time took 7 hours. And it was afterwards, the doctor said to me, Mum, that the state my heart was in, he said, I shouldn't have been even kicking the ball in January. He said, I should have been dead. So, again, what is a crazy story is something that you get told all them things, and as great as they are, sometimes trying to live with all that, getting told how close you were to death, can make you go one way or the other. And sometimes I'm not sitting here saying I'm this reformed, fixed person. I still struggle sometimes where I go, I actually should be dead. And then there's other times, and I know it sounds blunt to say, and when you say it out so straight, but that's why sometimes when you say I don't look too far ahead, and I never really look too far back, only if I have to. But at the same time, I look at everything that I've gone through, because the recovery process of this was, I came back and then I thought, right, anxiety started. Health anxiety started. Now I thought, my heart is fixed. What's next going to get me? What's the next big thing going to get me? I'm getting a headache. This could be gone. And that all started. Yeah. And then depression.
It's quite natural to be, from someone who has been through what you've been through, that every slight little ache is like, well, is this it? Is this what's next?
And that was literally it. And the whole point of that was, I never had that before. Like, when you're playing football, you feel it's this strong, powerful person. And I was a captain of Newport, and everything is like, yeah, this is the person that I am. And when all that's stripped away, it's like, right, I'm nothing now. When I was in hospital for the 4 weeks, I lost 2 stone in weight. I came out like half the person I was. I couldn't walk from here to there. Like, and as well as that, I didn't want to get out of bed because it's like that switch in my mind was, I had one operation for football. Now this operation was for life. Now I need to protect it.
Yeah.
Now I don't want to put too much strain on it. Now I don't want to do this. Whereas realistically, to rehab a heart, you have to do more. Not sitting around doing nothing is going to make it,
Yeah.
it'll make it worse. So there was times where I'm laying in bed and I don't want to get out of bed. I'd have a panic attack in bed and I'd go sleep on my sofa. And then when I'm sleeping on my sofa, I'm hardly sleeping because I'm too afraid that I won't wake up.
Yeah.
And then if I have a panic attack on the sofa, I wouldn't sit in my living room ever again, and I'd just stay in my bedroom. Like, I just didn't want to leave. And obviously that took its toll on the girl that I was with, which then obviously started upsetting her. And then things like that started to unfold where I ended up having to walk away from that. And that was difficult. But then on the flip side of it all, I needed all of these things to happen.
Yeah.
I needed all of these bad things to happen, like getting told you're in depression. You never, like, I never understood depression. You always think when someone said years ago they were depressed, you'd go, do something that makes you happy.
Yeah.
And it's not that
This is
simple.
until you're in the situation, though, isn't it? I remember when they told me that I had like PTSD and depression, and I was sitting there saying like, I don't know what any of that means. Like, and it's like, you need to start doing this. And I was just like, but that, I don't think that is going to help.
Yeah.
But if it is that mentality of like, oh, we'll do something that, makes you feel good. And it's like, it's a lot deeper than that until you're in it. I don't think I've actually ever heard anyone kind of like articulate in a way of like how it actually feels when you're at that level and there's nothing, no one can tell you like what to do because for some reason like your brain is telling you like to ignore it, like nope, you're not worth it. All these kind of things start creeping in, and it's in this like real dark state of, well, this is it now.
Yeah.
This is it for me.
Yeah.
I'm just going to feel like this forever.
Yeah. And that is literally the way I thought my life was always going to be. I thought, and I remember I broke down, and like this there's teammates that I used to have, and I'd sit with him, and I used to cry constantly because I used to say, if this is me for the rest of my life, I don't want it. Now, that's not saying that I wanted to give up on it. I was just like, something's got to change. Something's got to give because this can't be me for the rest of my life. Like, I can't just be this one who's afraid of doing things. And I wasn't able to put the pieces of the puzzle together. I wasn't able to do it. Like, I was still newly retired, so I wasn't able to cope with the fact I'm not training anymore. Like, I have no purpose to get fit anymore. What's the point in going and training if I don't have football by the end of it? So again, it's always going back to the saying football was no longer a distraction for me. So I didn't have that distraction to keep my mind focused on something away from all of this that'll go, right, this is the end goal, this is what I need. There was nothing anymore.
When you're in that headspace, don't think a lot of people realize just how difficult it is to do the simplest of things. And I think when you're in that state, the healing process starts by acknowledging those little wins, because they're not easy, and they're little now because we're kind of like almost brushing them off as little things. But when you're in that moment, they are the hardest and the biggest almost milestones to hit.
Yeah, 100%. And like you say, it's things that we're getting taken for granted, where I was more worried about saying I didn't exercise, like the big things, like the end goal. But how do you get to that end goal? All the little small things that would let you get to that. And because I wasn't completing that, again, it was the whole point of, again, people saying to me, Mark, you're being hard on yourself. Have you not realised what you've come through? Have you not realised what you've gone through?
Have you worked out why you do that?
I think it was always just due to the fact of trying to get the best out of everything. And being a footballer, it's like you're regimented.
Yeah.
Being a footballer, like your life, your year, everything is planned out for you.
Well, I suppose the season.
Then your off season, you've got an off season plan, and then the next season starts, and the next season starts, and your weekly plan, so you know what you're doing day to day.
So it's like you're almost conditioned, to like almost function a certain way.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like you go out there and have your own professionalism of saying, I want to play well, and for me to play well, I'm going to have to train, and it's like you put that pressure on yourself constantly. And I always put pressure on myself because I wanted the best out of my career, and I knew I was on a clock to an extent of saying I don't know what's going to be me last year. So I was constantly putting myself under pressure to say, I want to go out and play well, I have to perform, I want people to like me, and all these different things that now all of a sudden you don't have that distraction. You're dealing with it all now. And I didn't know any of it. And it was to the fact of going, okay, waking up each morning, it's something that I can hand on heart say to myself now of going, well, the fact I've woken up, do you know what? This day can't get any better. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it was like that moment. And that's like from my scenario and what I've gone through. And it's not to say, but everybody, sometimes you don't have the opportunity of that. Sometimes people like will take it for granted and go, what I'm going to do next week. Well, sometimes I always think of it and go, well, I don't know what next week is going to bring, because it always brings me back to the point where during COVID, before I knew about my heart issue, I bought 4 new pairs of football boots for when COVID finished to get back playing. And those 4 new pairs of boots never got worn because I had to retire. So what I planned for in 4, 5, 6 weeks in time never unfolded. And then, like you say, it's almost to an extent of building an expectation for something that you never know what's going to happen, or you build an excitement or a disappointment for something that you never know is going to happen. But actually living for the day that you've got ahead of yourself, whether that is getting out of bed. And like you say, you don't have to make that conscious expression about going, I finally got out of bed. It's kind of like just for yourself to kind of go, well, at least I've done these things. Now, if that's all my day has for me, I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's actually making that choice of seeing things in a positive way, because it's even taught me to saying from a positive to a negative. Like, when you're born as a
Do you know
kid,
who said that? Obviously, we talk about music quite a lot on the show, and one of the biggest, like, Dre, I'll show you like my Spotify like end of year. It's in there every year. Pitbull taught me that.
really,
Yep, negatives to positives.
because like I've seen it in a sense of, like, when you're born, right? And it, like, I've thought about this for a long time. Like, when you're born, you're not born positive or negative. They're all choices you've made to be a certain way. And sometimes I look at it and go, right, well, if it is a choice to be positive, well, why don't I just choose it? And I know it sounds simple, but in the sense that I do be in, of going, look at all the stuff I've gone through, I can turn around and talk about it as negatively as I want, but it wouldn't have me where I'm at right now, and I wouldn't have I wouldn't have what I've gone through to be able to understand more people, to understand myself, to understand what someone else might be going through, like that kind of understanding of everything that has happened. And when you go through me life, like you say, it is a story, and it's crazy because I can put it all together and go, well, this injury led me to this manager, and that manager led me to this club, and this club led me to this success, and this success led me to here. And if I didn't have any of them things, and then you're just floating around, like, everything all happened for whatever reason.
It's all stepping stones.
And it is, and it's one of those things where, because of the great successes I've had in my career, and I've loved every minute of it, because I had the open heart surgery at 16, I was able to enjoy them that little bit more, because I was thinking, well, do you know what? I don't look back at a career and go, it was taken away from me. I look back at a career now and go, I've got 10 years more than a doctor ever gave me at the beginning. And then when I retire, it's not the fact that I can't play football anymore, because I did have moments where I thought, I can't play, this is terrible. Why am I sitting here watching a game? I can't affect it, I can't help. Whereas now, the way I view it is to the point of saying, well, at least I can still be here to watch it.
Yeah.
At least I can still be here to be part of it. And then when you see things like that, like I said, my perspectives just changed dramatically over so many things. And only just due to the fact of, well, it's my choice. That doesn't mean people have to agree with me all the time. That doesn't mean people have to go, oh, look at him trying to be Mr. Positive and it's probably all fake. Because I'll have days where they can be really negative. I'll have days where me thoughts do get the better of me, where this valve that beats so loud and stuff like that does get the better of me, where there's days I don't want to get out of bed. So I do still have them things, but they're just a lot less than what they were at the beginning. And I don't let them to rule my life. I just kind of go and accept it. And I sit in it and just go, well, look, if I am having a bad day and I don't feel like doing it, well, then I'm not going to be hard on myself saying I have to do it. I'm going to sit there and go, all right, then I'll leave it for today. And then, do you know what? Hopefully tomorrow I'll do it.
Well, and this, and I literally, I feel like I want to clap on everything that you're saying, because it is so true and so refreshing to have this kind of conversation. But we can sit in it. There is this kind of like, I don't know what it is, and I think it has been one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from like the Waffle Shop in general, is the fact that yes, things are going to happen. Life is incredibly tough. It's going to throw these things at you that are going to completely destroy you. But it's also in those moments that you can rebuild. You can get to this mentality of like, yes, like this is really difficult. I'm really struggling today. But all these past experiences prove that you've got what it takes to get through that bad day.
Yeah.
That one bad day. You've got almost like a portfolio of bad days to prove that you'll get through it.
Yeah,
And it's
100%.
that mentality that I just think is these things that I don't know. I don't really believe in like religion or like the universe or fate, but I look back at certain points and think, I didn't think I was going to get through that. And I think this is one of the powerful things of like journaling as well. I look back at certain moments of my life or pages in my journal and be like, I didn't think I was going to get through that. And then I look back and be like, you did it. You did it. And hearing stories like this, it just, I don't know, mate. I just genuinely feel really fired up. Like I almost feel like emotional because I'm just like, it's just something, again, that is something so beautiful that has been born out of so much almost like pain and trauma. And we're still here. We're still going. I'd literally, I knew this episode was going to be good, but it's literally completely blew my mind. It's not often I'm actually lost for words like on my own show. This is it's mental because it's pain to purpose. Like that could have completely destroyed you. And as you said, like there's days that quite clearly it still has that risk. It still gives you that little bit of a, okay, this has got me. But like you know, like your gut, like your mindset, that level of fire, it's going to pull you through. I do have 3 final questions for you.
Okay.
So obviously we talk about music quite a bit on the show.
Oh,
So I've switched this up recently. So I'm a big believer in people having almost like a soundtrack to their journey so far. And it seems quite like relevant at the moment that quite a lot of the people that I'm talking to are almost kind of stopping one part of their chapter or closing a chapter and starting a new one. And then when I think of chapters and stuff like that, like if for some reason it led me to like movies. So if there was a movie made about Mark O'Brien, what song would be playing once the credits started rolling?
do you know what? There's been 3 or 4 songs that sit with me a lot for what went on when I listened to them word for word. There's a song, I can't remember who the artist is, but it's called Damn Good Life and it's a country song. And literally the opening line in it is, and I woke up and I'm still breathing. And like it's literally about like what you have, just be happy with. Like I don't have the biggest of house, but you're happy. I don't have the most money, but I'm happy. Like it's literally that song sat with me and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
So like there was one of the ex professionals that I played with, he went for the same operation and obviously I was speaking to him through it, and when he was in recovery, I sent him the song and said, just listen to the words. And then he said it himself, he said, I just needed to hear that today. And that is just something that it is. I remember I came out of, once I walked out of hospital, and I remember I was sitting in the car on the way back to Newport from Leicester, and The Greatest Showman, This Is Me.
Yeah.
That was the first song I heard. Like, literally the fact of just, sometimes I hear that song, and like, I have, and whether I say it or not, I have shed a tear listening to it because I can actually sit and listen to the words. And I know it might sound a bit cringe and stuff, but
Nah, mate, you're
things
speaking
like
to
that.
the one person that is.
But it's like meaningful songs sometimes to me that I can relate to me. I can sit and go, right, there's probably this song probably means a lot to a lot of people. But for me on a personal level, like, do you know what, I can sit with that and just go, everything that I've gone through, and do you know what, like, I'm not the most perfect of people, and I'm not like overcome, or I've, like, as I say, I still struggle with things. But this is actually just me.
Yeah.
Like literally sitting right here in front of you. I'm not anything different. Like this is
You
the
don't
person
need
that
to
I am.
be anything
And that's the
other
thing.
than you.
But like I've obviously like taken a laugh with like I've tried taking a laugh with like the Ronan Keating Life is a Roller Coaster and stuff like that.
Fucking
Well,
hell, and it just
like in
he
all
weren't lying,
fairness,
was he?
but no, he actually 100% wasn't.
He got us there.
No, I tell you, he was speaking truth. But yeah, no, I would just think like, This Is Me would be something that just sits with me where I'm
Yeah.
just thinking, yeah. And sometimes like where I've sat by myself, and when you have to give those kind of proud moments to yourself, and I know there's a lot of people that have helped me along the way, but to be proud of myself, it's kind of white snake, here I go again. Here I
Fucking
go again on
hell.
my own. So like when I listen to that song, I'm kind of like, do you know what? When there's a challenge or something that comes my way, and I just go, or if I was going out to speak to people, or if there was just something that I needed to do, I'd play that song and I go, yeah, do you know what? Here I go, and I'll go on my own, and it's not disregarding anybody who's helped me, but it's to the point of just sitting there for myself and go, yeah, this one is the one that means something, and I can actually relate to it. So yeah, I'd say they're probably three of my main songs I'd put up there.
Yeah, that last one. I'm gonna stop talking to you now because I feel like that's like the fourth time you tried to make me cry. Is there a song that needs to be playing to get you on the dance floor? That is guaranteed to get you on the dance floor.
I'd say anything Motown.
Okay,
Like
now we're talking.
I love Motown. Like I was brought up like obviously my mum cleaning the house and
Yeah.
the radio's turned up really loud. So Motown and any sort of song Motown was, and you would have me up dancing and getting myself going right there. Like I love it. I do. And anything kind of old school. Like my dad is like Nat King Cole and the Rat Pack and different things. So like all kind of older music.
That is a good
Like
mix.
all stuff like that is something that you'd catch me singing along to and
Yeah.
having the best sing song of my life, and everything going into like 90s and 2000s and stuff. Yeah, but anything older than that, that type of music I could easily sing along to, because it's like it just makes you feel good. Because I remember I watched the Motown documentary, and like they explain like how they have made the songs and why the start of the song is like hit you with such a punch and different things, because it's like right now it's go time, and why it's so high energied. So again,
It's a journey, isn't it?
And 100%, and that's literally why I think Motown just I love it, absolutely love it, absolutely love it.
On the flip side of that, is there a song that you'd like to put in a box, wrap in chains, kick to the bottom of the ocean, and never hear again?
Oh,
I mean, there's no beef on the show, but sometimes there's songs that you just I just cannot listen to that again.
Do you know what? I don't think there's not a song I couldn't listen to, but I think every single song that can be newly made that all sound the same. Like I think nowadays music all seems so similar.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing, like you say, Frank Sinatra's and different things, and you go from like the 90s of all different bands and wherever. I just think all beats and different things sound the same now. And I just think a certain decade of music and I can just get wrapped up, and whether that's recent music or not, I'm not gonna like put.
So every song made past 2010, in the bin.
Like in all fairness, like that does mean my take on it, because you might get one or two songs that come out and go, oh yeah, that's all right. But 9 times out of 10, when you go on a night out or you go to a bar or a club, it's 80s, 90s, a couple of 2000s, 70s. That's where people listen to music and go, oh, what a song that is.
It's nostalgia, isn't it? That's what makes people feel good.
Yeah, and that's sometimes what I think makes you, like, again, the feel good factor. But I just think nowadays every song sounds the same. And I don't, and it's not the fact of trying to say I'm just sitting here as an old man. I'm only 31, but I just can't be bothered listening to it.
Don't do it like they did in March. They did that.
and like I'm talking like I was born in the 60s with Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, I felt exactly the same. Literally, every person who like I'm having conversations with about music, like they just don't do them like they used to.
Yeah, and like literally, like that's what my dad always used to say to me. He's like, you know what? See, in another 50 years' time, when you're old, you'll still be listening to Nat King Cole and Dean Martin.
Guaranteed.
And literally, that is the way that they were made. Whereas music nowadays seems like it's just made for the sake of being made, just to get a song out there. Now it's gone, no one remembers it.
It's a quick hit, isn't it?
So that to me can get all wrapped in a box, and I'll never listen to it again.
Mate, honestly, this, and I'm not just saying this is probably in my top 5 of podcasts I've ever recorded.
Have you only done 5?
I've only done 5. No, I just... Genuinely, there's a lot of what you have said that has really resonated with me, especially today of all days. But even just like from where you were 4 years ago, and even hearing things like in like medical terms, and even Glenfield, like Glenfield still go and visit my mom. They still look after her, like tracheostomy. So there's been a lot that you've said today that has really kind of made me really appreciate the journey, and to look back at those moments and be like, do you know what? Even my mom is still here. She shouldn't be. Like, and just being able to sit across something that was born, like we're sat in a product of that trauma for me, to be sat across with someone sharing their journey who, obviously I'm not a professional footballer, but there's elements of that I really relate to. It just today feels like a bit of a full circle.
Yeah.
And if it's the first time I've met you, it's bizarre. But genuinely, mate, like I'm in awe of like everything that you stand for and your mindset. And I can't thank you enough for joining me for a waffle.
No, I absolutely loved it. And as I said, it was one I was waiting on when I could see like how you work with things and how people speak and stuff. But again, like it's always an opportunity for me, and I'll always just be that open and honest way. And I can't thank you enough for just obviously allowing me to be here.
Mate, the pleasure was all mine, genuinely. And I think there is so much that can be taken away from this episode, your journey, your mindset, like everything. So yeah, you're gonna have to come back for like part 5 and 6.
No problem.
Deal. I've got it on recorded now.
Any new songs that get released, we'll sit and dissect them.
We heard this. No, I appreciate it, mate.
Honestly, thanks.